Hi, this is Tracy, and welcome to the Woman Within You podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. So, the topic today is uh, Teen Mom Chronicles. There's a story that went viral at Morehouse College of a professor who held a baby while a father who happened to be in his math class took notes for class. So I thought that was an amazing story, and I started to think about my own life because I was a teen mom, and I've actually had to bring my son to class with me as well. I remember my son being sick, and I had a group presentation, and he was sick the day before. One of the rules of the daycare that he attended is that if they went home sick with a fever or an ear infection, they had to come back with a note the next day. So I was taking him to the doctor that same day, but I had a group presentation that was due. And if I didn't come to the group presentation, I knew that not only would my group fail, but I would fail too. And that just was not going to be an option for me. So I remember it being winter, and I remember bundling up my son, and I took him to class with me. I remember walking in, he was inside of the car seat, and then the car seat was in the stroller. He was really young, and he was feeling better. So it's not like he was contagious or anything. When he was born, he had a few respiratory issues. And for some reason, and if you're a mom, you know that when your kid is in daycare, there's always some type of ear infection or something going around. So they're really susceptible to being sick. But he was feeling better, and I was taking him to the doctor later that day. So I brought him to class, and he was quiet the entire class. We did our presentation. But then towards the end of class, he started to cry a little bit. And I remember running over to him, and the teacher saying to me, "Oh, no worries, just finish your last part of your presentation." And she went and she picked him up, and he was quiet, and everything was good. But it just goes to show that when you want something, and you have to do it by any means necessary. So my life as a teen mom. So I found out I was pregnant as a teen, and I remember just feeling so shameful. I remember someone saying to me, "You'll be nothing but a statistic." And I swear, even to this day, that word statistic bothers me because I can still hear that person's voice saying to me, "You'll be nothing but a statistic." It was not easy. My relationship with my mother was terrible during that time. But I knew that, number one, I was pregnant, but I had to stay on campus because I had to finish out school. So I called housing, and I made arrangements, and I asked them if it was okay if I stayed on campus, being pregnant. And they said yes. And what they did was they put me in my own room, and then I shared a bathroom with another young lady. So I lived on campus, and because I was so shamed, I would only stay there Monday through Thursday, and then Thursday through Sunday I would come home. I had already had 2 jobs, and I continued to work those jobs, and I continued to attend school. I studied all the time. I cried all the time too because I was just so shameful that I was pregnant. But to be honest with you, having my son was the best decision that I ever made in my entire life. He's a wonderful kid. Right now, he's looking at colleges, if you can believe that. He's getting ready to drive. And to be honest with you, I don't think I would be the same person that I am today had I not had him so young. It's like we grew up together. He was born in August, and I was supposed to start school in that September. It would have been my junior year. But I had some complications after having him, and he had some complications. And so I was not able to go back to school in September. And so I just worked that semester. I worked at a daycare center. So I just worked that semester, and the entire time I was working, I know that people said to me, "Oh, you're probably not going to go back to school." But honestly, I had to go back to school. Me working that semester, even though I had a newborn baby, I was miserable. I was miserable because I knew that I needed to be back in school, and I knew that I needed to do everything in my power to get back into school. So I did a lot of research. I was able to take winter intercession classes, and I was able to go back to school that January. So I missed 1 semester. One of my biggest goals when I went back to school in January is that I was going to graduate on stage with my class. So I was missing a semester, but I was determined to graduate on time with my graduating class. Now, I had to be resourceful to do that. I had to find summer classes. I remember that first semester that I went back to school, I strategically arranged my schedule so that I could still work. So I worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the daycare. And I had a Monday night class where my mother would pick my son up from the daycare and I would just go straight to class from work. And then I would go to school all day, Tuesday and Thursday. I would pick my son up from the daycare and then I would go home and I would study. And I would study and I would always have him on my lap. I would play with him. I would be reading to him out loud. And of course, he can't respond to me, but he would be smiling at me and listening. And it's funny because he's always been super smart and like he was reading really early, like 4 years old, no lies. He would be reading. And I remember he would used to say, America runs on Duncan. And he was like 4 years old. But people always joked and said, you know what? That's why he's so smart, because instead of reading, Goodnight Moon to him, you were reading books to him. Your school books, your psychology books, your social work books to him. So I could not be a statistic. And I'm telling you, still, that really bothered me that someone would say that about me. So I ended up commuting back and forth to school. I still lived at home. I was gracious that my mother allowed me to still live at home and attend school. I found internships. I found ways to earn college credits so that I could graduate with my class. And guess what? I was able to do it. I was able to graduate on stage with my class. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember my son being, maybe he was like 1.5, and he was screaming, Mommy, 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 and clapping his hands. And it was just one of the most amazing days of my life. And I knew that at that moment, I wanted to give him his best life. And I knew at that moment that meant me finishing school, him seeing me finishing school. And even to this day, when I talk to him and I remind him, that I had him so young and we grew up together, and how important education is to me and why it's important that he goes to school and he understands the value of education. And, he really understands that and he really gets it. So that means a lot to me. It was not easy. I did not want to be on welfare. I wanted to make sure that I worked. I wanted to make sure that I was able to take care of him. I refused to accept help from anyone. I had him. He was my son. So I needed to make sure that I took care of him. I really wanted to share this because I think that sometimes when you're a teen mom, people judge you and people just kind of count you out. But you can do anything that you put your mind to. I went on to then get an advanced degree. He was still young. He was like 3 years old. And I went on and I got an advanced degree. I would still read my books. He would sit in my lap as I typed my papers. I still continued to live with my mother. I was able to, purchase a home when he was 4 years old because I have tunnel vision. When I put my mind to something, I will always do it. So it was very easy for me to say to myself, nope, you're going to do this. You are not your mistakes. You are not your setbacks. And you should never be shamed of your experiences. So my life as a teen mom, yeah, it was difficult. But I wouldn't be the person that I am today had I not been a teen mom. I want to get into some statistics regarding teen pregnancy and teen birth rates. I was actually really shocked when I did some research on teen pregnancy. Teen pregnancy is actually on the decline. According to the CDC, 1 in 8 women aged 15 to 19 become pregnant each year, but teen birth rates are on the decline. And that's because of a lot of teen pregnancy prevention and programs in schools and in community centers to help teens with making right decisions and making sure that they are preventing their pregnancy. And that's interesting because there's this whole ideal on social media about like living your best life and black boy joy, black girl magic, and traveling and everything. And so I think that some of the kids aren't even thinking about having children. I always wanted children, but I don't know if I wanted them so young. So here's some statistics on teen birth rates, and they were actually really shocking to me. So 15% of non-Asian Hispanics have teen moms. 9% of Hispanics, 8% of non-Hispanic whites, 6% of non-Hispanic blacks, and 6% of American Indian and Alaska Native. So those are the statistics. And you would think from the media that those statistics will be flipped and that it will be a different ethnic group besides the non-Hispanic Asians that had the highest teen birth rate. That, children are at a different level. And I really think they are. And that's why I'm committed to helping with teen pregnancy and prevention. And I'm also willing to speak to teens about who have children and about how they can persevere even though they have a child so young. So let's get to our affirmation of the week. And I will put this up on the website. Let's get to our affirmation of the week. I will see the beauty and blessings in my life as I see everything and everyone as a gift. I will see the beauty and blessings in my life as I see everything and everyone as a gift. So that affirmation actually came from a book that I read called Dangers of the Mind 30-Day Affirmation Challenge, The Ultimate Guide to Setting Up Your Month for Peace and Prosperity. And it's by a Connecticut native. Her name is Kristen Hopkins. And I actually really enjoy reading affirmations from her book. Well, that's all for today. Join us next week. We have a very special guest, and we're going to be talking about a very controversial topic. So I hope that you tune in next week. And remember, you are strong, you are fearless, and most of all, you are beautiful. Have a wonderful week.